Dan, you're finally on Face Speaks
Finally,
Louder.
yeah, absolutely.
Now, welcome to the most insignificant podcast in Wales. I'm taking the mic.
Aren't we all?
But I know. But thank you for coming on. And we're
Yeah.
just going to sit down and have a relaxed chat, basically.
Yeah.
I know everybody's going to be surprised that you're on my podcast, so I think we need to just address,
Yeah.
the issues. At the end of the day, we are united because we love Wales.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't matter about disagreements. It don't matter at the end of the day because we have one agenda, and that is to see Wales change for the better.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so we are in agreement that we will be voting for reform.
Yeah, it's the only way. I remember, I think I spoke to you just before Christmas.
Yes.
And nothing has changed since then for me.
No.
I've seen it, I knew it, it's how it always had to be.
And I suppose, in the back of my mind, I always knew that out of a toss-up between Labour and Plaid and all them, reform was the only common sense thing. But you never know what can happen in the background with a party, right?
Yeah.
Now, I know we've had our disagreements on Advance UK, Advance Wales, but they're not in the running.
No.
So that's gone, right? We do have, though, and I wanted to talk to you about this because it is, I think, a very real possibility that heritage are starting to creep up. Right? Because they are very, I don't know why heritage are so quiet compared to Restore Britain, because Restore Britain have taken off, but they believe the same thing as what heritage do. What do you think about heritage first?
We've done a lot of work with the Heritage Party, a lot of work with Dave Curtin. I like him, he's a great
good,
guy.
isn't he?
Yeah, he is a fantastic guy, but it still all comes down to, we got to play the game.
Yes.
The reason why the people on our side of politics have never, let's just say, performed so well together is because we've always lead with our hearts.
Yeah.
Whereas the left, they're tactical voting on everything, so they're using their heads. We've never used our heads. Yeah. This is the perfect opportunity to use our heads. So it'd be exactly the same. A vote for heritage right now, although I do like David and I know he's in it for the right reasons, but it's a de facto vote for Plaid.
And I think we've got to make the distinction between, it's not about changing Wales at the minute, it's about changing the Senedd first.
Yes.
Because we're not going to get change in Wales if the Senedd is exactly the same. So we need to change the Senedd, and the only way we can do that is via tactical voting.
Yeah.
And then we'll see the change from Wales in the next election, maybe when we got more options.
Yeah, because Reform, unless they are the majority party, if they had 49% of the seats in the Senedd, they're still going to not, they're going to really struggle, because how are they going to pass anything? How are they going to put any more, how are they going to stop the 20 mile per hour when every single party in there is going to go against it? So what do you
think is going to happen? Because this is a problem I don't think people understand might happen, even if Reform they're in now. They might not be able to pass any policies through. Why would that be?
Because it has to be united, so it has to be voted through by all the other parties as well. So they have to agree there has to be a majority vote. Now, if they've only got 49% of the votes, or the say, the 51%, which would be the left-wing parties, will say no to everything.
So they'll just all club together.
Yeah, and that's what they're going to do. Mark Drakeford's already said, there's going to be a coalition of losers. You're going to have Labour, you're going to have the Greens, and you're going to have Plaid Cymru working together, to basically go against Reform on everything. So they're not, just like their election campaigns, it isn't what we're going to do, it's we're going to stop Reform. That's
so
all
what's the point in voting for Reform?
Because it's the same as Labour. You look at Labour in Westminster now, everybody, and a lot of people disagreed with me at the time when I said Labour have to get in. You have to get Labour in, so the general public can look and go, wow, these are terrible.
Right.
That's what we're going to see in the Senedd. You're going to see a party, the biggest party, I hope it'd be the biggest party of being Reform. Yeah. When you've got the biggest party, you can't pass anything.
Yeah.
And that's going to alert the public to how dirty the politics is. So I think this next 5 years is going to be like an educational process of people realising how bad and how dangerous the political system is in Cardiff Bay.
So it's going to be like exposing, basically, everything, about every party. I mean, if Plaid and Labour are not careful, and Greens, right, and Liberal Democrats are not careful, it could be the end of their parties if they don't play the next 5 years correctly.
Yeah, and the problem we've got is Plaid Cymru and the Greens are very much appealing to the younger voters. They marketed themselves on stop Reform, Wales versus England. That's exactly how they're doing it. They're not trying to beat them on policy. They're trying to beat them on, using people's hearts. We need to vote for Wales, not vote for England. Yeah, absolutely. And I think Labour, 27 years has taken. I think they're near enough done and dusted. They may cling on to a few seats, but they're on the down now. But it took 27 years for that. So, you know, it may be Plaid Cymru get into power. They could still have another 27 years of their madness before people even wake up.
So do you think that Conservatives will kind of make a coalition with Reform?
They'd have to. Yeah, they'd have to. If they get many seats, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 seats they're looking at getting, the Conservatives. So it doesn't look like a huge difference, but ultimately they're the only party that's got anything similar to Reform. You know, the Conservative Party. You know, I know the Welsh Conservatives be more Liberal Greens. You know, for a long time they've never really been a Conservative Party, but for them to stand any chance of surviving, they have to start being Conservative.
Oh my God, what do you think about Dan Thomas?
He's great. Yeah, everything I've seen of him, he seems like a really good guy. You know, his heart's in it for the right reasons. He's a Welsh boy, and this is the difference. This is what people tend to forget, and the left do it a lot. You know, they say, "Oh, look, Nigel wants this. This is Nigel Farage."
Yes.
But this is Welsh Reform. Yeah. There's a very different, you know, distinctive difference between Welsh Labour and Westminster Labour.
There is huge, and
Welsh Conservatives and the Conservatives in Westminster.
Yeah.
Well, this is the Welsh Reform.
Yeah.
It's been led by Dan Thomas. He said on that Leaders' Question Time, which I thought was great.
It was brilliant.
I'm the boss of Wales. And I think that is it. And I think Nigel would like that. Yeah. You know, he'd like someone to stand his ground. And so I've got no problems. I haven't seen anything about Dan or any of the other candidates to say that. And I've spoke to a lot of them. And they all seem, their heart is in it for the right reasons.
Yeah. Now, we interviewed a couple of weeks ago with Owain Catworthy.
Yeah.
Obviously, and we had to edit a lot of stuff out.
Right.
for his sake more than any, because we didn't want any kind of libel cases.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But what do you think of that situation? Because he obviously jumped.
It's very suspect, to be honest with you. Lots of people saying, and lots of people said he was a Labour plant beforehand. He was in the Labour Party beforehand, and that was all just to try and bring it down. You know, there's no level that they won't go to try and bring Reform down. So I think that was just publicity sort of stunts, silly moves.
Yeah.
You know, and there's other people. You know, there's people like Caroline Jones has done it as well. You know, because she didn't get the selected first.
Yeah.
Jumped ship. Or gone standing independent, but slate in Reform. Now, anybody that has been involved in politics will know that Reform are the only option to break the Labour Plaid madness that we've had for 27 years.
Sure.
So if you're going to go against that, knowing full well, I question anybody then, where their heart is for Wales.
I mean, having met him, because I had the same opinion, and then I met him, I do have a very different opinion.
Yeah.
And I think this would be interesting for people who don't know if they're going to vote for Reform or not. Is that he's seen stuff that he wasn't happy with.
Yeah.
Right? And he couldn't align himself with the party because of those things. I think that you're going to get problems in every party.
Yeah.
No matter what party. There is no such thing as a perfect party. No. And I think people are waiting for the perfect party.
Yeah. It's going to be a long wait. Yeah, you've got to cut your losses with certain things. Yeah. I've got, you know, in Wales, there's not many people in Wales that's got a bigger axe to grind against Nigel than me. Yeah. You know, he does not like us. He's told us...
Why is that?
Ultimately, because we stand with Tommy Robinson. You know, that's it. I'm friendly with Tommy Robinson. When Tommy was in prison, Nigel was coming out, and there was a lot of stuff being said about Tommy that was just untrue. You know, just lies.
And it's all come out that it is
all
untrue.
All come out untrue. Yeah. And, you know, he could have corrected it. Nigel has now said sorry. So, you know, can say that. But I'm not looking at Nigel. I'm looking at my kids, you know, other people's children, and thinking we've got to pinch our nose and vote if we have to, if it's the right thing to do. Like, there's going to be things in the party that people don't like.
Yeah.
But I always say to people, well, do you prefer a nation of sanctuary? Do you prefer the trans ideologies in schools, women, you know, changing rooms with men walking in?
Right.
Because if you would prefer that, fair enough, vote for whatever. But if you don't want that, surely you can vote Reform.
Yeah. Now, Katie Optin said about don't pinch your nose.
Yeah.
But she's come out, she was outside the Senedd, and she said, you need to vote for Reform.
Yeah.
Right, so even people like that who are staunchly against Reform understand that the landscape in Wales right now needs reform in it. Right? What do you think Wales is going to look like on day one of a Reform government?
Oh, it depends on the reaction from the left, I think. If we do get a Reform government, you know, the intimidation and the threats is not to be taken lightly from this lot. You know, it is. I think it's only going to get worse, unfortunately. I'd like to think we're going to see a return to common sense. We're going to hear things being said in the Senedd where the minority of people aren't, like Laura Ann Jones, perfect example. She's been someone standing up for, women's sports, you know, not allowing men in women's sports and things like that. And she was a minority.
That's crazy.
Which is mental. So it'd be nice to see the majority of the Senedd agreeing with common sense, which we haven't had for a long time.
No, but I don't know if we are going to see it change for a long, long time.
No. The reform, even if it's a stepping stone, it's a step in the right direction. We've got to go that way. We can't be going that way. We can't carry on going that way.
And I think it's important that people understand that even though we want reforming, we will be the opposition to reform once they get in to make sure that they do what they say they're going to do.
Absolutely, yeah, because us, the voters, are voting for things like, end the native sanctuaries, stop the 20 mile per hour, reindustrialise Wales, bring business back, tourism taxes and all that stuff. That's what we're voting for. So their strongest critics are going to be us, the voters. And, the media, for example, we've said, get them in and we're going to be on your heels every single day. And that's fine, because if you've got, there needs to be a strong opposition. There's never been an opposition in Wales. Like, we coined ourselves as the only opposition in Wales years ago. Because you'd have Labour and Plaid saying, oh, should we do this? Yeah, let's do that. That was it. There was not any pushback. So I think that's the difference now, is that there is a genuine opposition in Wales. Welsh, there's a lot of problems with the Conservatives and Welsh people not voting Conservative. There's a truly Conservative option for the Welsh people that isn't the Tories. So it's an exciting time.
I don't know if it's exciting. I'm nervous about it.
Exciting time to be alive, to see what's going on there.
I mean, it's the first time we're having even an option of change. So that should be taken seriously. What would you say to people who say they're just not voting?
Well, don't complain. We've had it loads of times where people will complain. It's like, well, how did you vote last time? I didn't vote. Well, don't talk to me about it then. If you don't vote, you've lost the right to complain. Yeah,
you can't complain about taxes. You've been collections, not enough jobs in the street. You can't moan about any of it because you didn't vote.
Yeah, it doesn't change anything. Just because you don't vote, you're not exempt from tax.
No.
You still are a part of it. And my father said to me something quite a while ago, and it was about the Brexit, because Brexit was my first vote.
Oh, okay.
And when he found that out, he said, "That was your you haven't voted before." I said, "No." He said, "People died to give you that vote."
Yeah.
And a lot of military in my family, so it was trickled down. And that hit me, and it's like, absolutely, that's true. People did. We've got that freedom, and we should be using it. Even if you go and spoil the ballot, go.
Yeah, just do it anyway.
Yeah.
But make sure that you're not voting for the left.
Yeah. If you say you care about Wales, don't do that.
I mean, I'm supportive. If that's if you want a Wales that looks inclusive of every ideology, that looks predominantly Islamic, less Christianity, more dictatorship, then vote for Plaid and vote for Labour. If that's honestly the way you want to live, or move to Iran or Syria, where you can have those things as well. Yeah,
because that's the worst thing about it, is that, everything that I remembered, I knew and I loved growing up is being taken away.
Yeah, it's true.
I heard, hymns in assembly and things like that were gone, I am hearing now that little things like that are coming back.
The Lord's Prayer.
Lord's Prayer,
We all used to learn the Lord's Prayer in assemblies.
And I'd put my life in it that there's not 80% of children in school don't know it.
No,
they probably don't even know what it is.
No, it's true.
And that's, that's damning. And I think, if you're going to be diversity, well, that's not unity then, is it? That's the opposite of united, which isn't good. And it's not going to, we've seen how it's been in certain places in Wales.
Yeah.
It's only going to get worse.
Yeah, it is. Now, I want to ask you a question, because I know some of my viewers, you're like a hot potato. I know some people are like, they can't decide about who you are. But he's genuinely decent guy. Yeah. But why and how did you start the Voice of Wales?
So Brexit was my first vote. Yeah. And I watched how the politicians treated my vote. Yeah. And I thought, all I knew about politicians were they lie. That's all I knew. They're all liars. That's all I needed, and I didn't care.
No.
And it was boring. That's all I knew. But then I voted for Brexit because it wasn't for any party.
Yeah.
It wasn't, I had to join a party to vote. I could just vote, leave or remain. And then I watched all the politicians do everything that they could to reverse what I said, to try and tell me I didn't know what I was voting for. And it was like, hang on a minute. And I'm the type of person that I feel compelled then to do something. If I see a wrong, It's like, well, this isn't right.
Sure.
So we started doing campaigning. We had a local councillor because so you had Brexit, then you had all the lockdown, COVID, all the hassle went on, Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
And a Labour councillor, because we were complaining about Thomas Picton.
Oh, okay.
They wanted to take him down and change all street names and stuff. So we said, no, we started highlighting this, and we were called vile, racist bigots by a councillor on a council meeting.
Really?
Yeah, and we were new at this point, so I was like
what?
Wow, yeah, I can't believe this. So we went to Wales Online, and we said, look at this. Look what this councillor said about us.
Yeah.
Wales Online then printed a story calling us vile, racist bigots. So
You're
we were
joking.
so everything pointed back on us. I couldn't believe it. So I was like, so there must be a gap for honest media. So that's how we started. So we just started off by looking for what the politicians are doing wrong and broadcasting it.
Yeah,
and it's just grown to here.
I think it's important people understand that and like myself, I've only been in this game for 6 months. Because of the elections.
Yeah.
You've been doing this a long time.
Yeah, close to 10 years.
So you've seen a lot of things happen.
Yeah.
A lot of unjust things. And you get a lot of backlash from them.
Yeah, yeah. It doesn't help the media,
No.
The minute you do anything wrong, the media is all against you. BBC, TV, everywhere. They pointed it out to make it bad.
We have been vindicated a bit by the whole Martin Shipton thing.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is, I don't gloat, but I did have that thing of you reap what you sow.
Yeah. Us Palmer are all right round that.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, for those that don't know who Martin Shipton is, he's a journalist for Nation Cymru.
Journalist,
yeah. Blogger.
Yeah. Well, he's a government funded.
But you called me a blogger.
Vlogger.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not a vlogger.
Well, video logs, I think that's good. Yeah, that's not insulting. No, but he's state sponsored.
He is,
so he was never going to have an opinion.
But people don't know that.
No.
They don't know that the money to run our news organisations comes straight out of Plaid and Labour.
Yeah. They do, yeah. And it's either direct or indirect, but they are. £80,000 we got the Freedom of Information for
80 grand.
over the last 4 years. 80 grand.
What?
And they'll get more.
You're joking.
No, because it's going to be, if Plaid Cymru get into power, they're going to carry on giving them the money.
That's true.
So 80 grand.
So you can't trust what they read in because they are literally employed by the left.
Yeah.
So all you're going to get is bashing of the right.
Yeah.
So you can't trust them because it's a biased news organisation.
And that's just the one little one. You can go to the bigger ones, S4C, again, government funded, Wales Online, all of them. Look at Ron Jones, Plaid Cymru leader. He was a BBC reporter.
Because of you, I actually thought he was called Ron.
He is. That is his real name. That's his genuine real name.
I thought it was Rhyn.
Yeah, no, that's the Welsh version. You can't be a Welsh nationalist if you got a name like Ron. So, and Ap Iorwerth, or whatever his name is, means son of, his father's name then is Iorwerth.
So that's not his proper name?
No, it's Ron Jones. Genuine.
No, his actual name is Ron Jones. That's why I was right. It is actually
Ron Jones, yeah.
But he changed it to somewhere Welsh?
Yeah.
That's really deceitful.
Well, yeah, are you surprised? He's got to be looking more Welsh, haven't he? He's got to be sounded, he's the Welsh Nationalist Party leader.
But when I did a video, when I first started doing this, and I said about Plaid, they use Welsh language, like Plaid Cymru, in order to manipulate the voter into thinking that they're the only Welsh party.
Absolutely.
And that just proves it. If you've got to change your name to sound more Welsh, it's just manipulating the voter into voting for him.
That's right. And that's all it is. They can't win on policy. They can't win by saying we want to flood Wales with everybody from Africa and the Middle East.
Yeah.
They're not going to win by saying that.
No.
So they're going to win by saying, vote for us with Wales. We'll put Wales first. And the children in schools, because 16-year-olds are voting now.
Yeah.
It's crazy. They could register to vote at the age of 14.
That's
and all they've got for knowledge is what they've been taught in schools. And we know what bad schools are. And when you've got Ron going into all the schools, saying, this is Wales, we want to support Wales, we don't want to support Reform, the English party.
No.
We want to support Wales. And as a kid, you're going to go, Wales. So...
Oh, it's terrible.
It's manipulation, yeah.
Do you think that Labour have the same level of manipulation? Because when I was watching, what's her name again? I keep forgetting her name, the leader of...
Leonard.
Leonard, that's it. She actually seemed... down to it. She was challenging.
Yeah.
She was saying, how are you going to afford this? How are you going to afford that? So I liked her on those. I don't usually like what she's got to say. But in those speeches, she was down to earth and challenging. But do you think there's a level of manipulation as well with the Welsh Labour?
Yeah, it's been a really easy ride for them because
Yeah.
it's been, I vote Labour because my father does, my nana does, my bampa does. You know, the Labour that my father used to vote for isn't the same
It's
Labour
not
today.
the same, no.
He was ex-Labour, ex-Unionist. You know, my father, he's a reform voter through and through.
Yeah.
So, they've had an easy ride because obviously they've been able to ride off Thatcher closed the mines and all that. So there's never really, again, been another option.
No.
It's always been the baton passing between Labour and Plaid.
Yeah.
So they've had it quite easy. The manipulation hasn't needed to be there because it's automatically been there by, you can't vote Tory.
It's true. What do you think about the Greens?
Well,
Take a deep breath.
yeah. I bet you enjoyed doing their policy one.
It was nuts.
Yeah.
It was absolutely nuts.
No air travel, so you can't fly anywhere,
cars.
can't drive anywhere, no.
I was like, what do you mean no cars? Well, how are you going to stop people from driving?
Yeah, no, just ban it.
Yeah.
Just ban it all, to save the planet. We're going to stop you going on holidays to save the planet.
I know.
Like I think you know Paul Burgess. Paul Burgess is fantastic guy, very knowledgeable, really clued up on the climate side of things.
Yeah.
And the UK, 0.2% or 2% of the UK emissions is the UK, and 0.8% of that is man-made. So, if the whole of the United Kingdom fell into the ocean tomorrow,
It's not gonna make any
0.8% of a difference.
Oh my gosh.
So
And
it's
they're doing
madness.
all that just for the...
Yeah. It's control, ultimately
it is.
with the Greens, they are, the Marxists. They do want to destroy our culture, our heritage, our history.
Yeah.
And, they do that by, complete demographic change, which is what they want to do. They want open borders for everyone, which is mad because just because if the Greens got into power and they had open borders for the UK, that doesn't mean the rest of the world is open borders. No. It just means it's a green light for everybody to come to the UK.
And we're only an island, we're only a small island.
Yeah. So it's, it's insane. It's insanity. But the worrying thing is that they're like a populist party now for the youngsters. So a lot of the youngsters are leaning into them. I don't think they're going to do very well in Wales.
No.
I think you've got bigger worry in England because it's the Muslim bloc vote is what's controlling it, basically.
Sure. I did have a fella who's voting for Green. He always comments on my stuff.
Yeah.
He's gonna know who I'm talking about.
Right.
But he will say that he's voting for Greens, but get the English out.
Right.
So he's all for open borders.
Yeah.
Right, come from all over the world, but apart from the English.
In Wales, again.
Make it make sense.
Yeah. Our closest neighbours who are culturally aligned, identical to us, no.
No, we don't want them.
Yeah, bringing them from, wherever, Nigeria, come on
That's
over.
it. And these
Little
are people,
opposite.
the Islamic nations, they don't want gay people.
Mm-hmm.
Right? LGBTQ, no. Right? They don't want the Christians.
Yeah.
Right? They're actually compelled to kill them on the street corners.
Yeah.
That's what the Quran says.
Yeah.
What do you think the danger is at the minute? Because we do have a large Muslim population coming into Wales at the minute. What do we do as Christians to preserve our Christian heritage?
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it? Because all the institutions that were there, we were saying earlier on, the schools and stuff, that it was all Christianity. And actually, in law, it is supposed to be any religious education is 80% Christianity.
Yeah,
that's
but
not
they
the
don't.
case. No. So ultimately, it comes down to parents, to make sure they're educating their children into what our culture is, what our heritage is. Because, schools, my eldest, she's out of school now, but I went through her mock exams and the answers were incorrect. The correct answers were incorrect.
Yes.
Islam is the religion of peace, tick. Muslims only attack when they're attacked, tick. And that's what kids are being taught in school. Now, we know that that's not the case because in the Quran, they are instructed to take over.
Absolutely.
Whether they do it politically,
and
which is what we're seeing.
Says by the sword or by the pen.
Exactly, yeah. So they either submit, which is what Islam translates to, submit to the will of Allah, or they convert.
Yes.
And, that's ultimately what the goal is.
Yeah.
And we're seeing it because they use these parties. Plaid Cymru is the horse that's being used in Wales for the Muslim vote.
Sure.
There's iLead. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it's the Islamic Lead for Wales. And they put out emails basically to the whole Muslim community telling them who they need to vote for in what area to make sure Reform don't get in and they can secure an Islamic, a large Islamic number in a party. So they're very tactical, but that's because they're commanded to.
Right. So do you think the Muslims are afraid of what Reform could do?
Yeah. just because everyone's been gagged at the moment. There's no reason for them to be afraid of what Reform are going to do, because in England they're not really going to do much.
Yeah.
I think in Wales it's totally different, but there's never been anybody to criticise or call out the problems, the dangers in Islam.
Yeah.
I think Reform, Councillor Francesca O'Brien, she did a meeting with parents at the parents' request in schools, because a Sketty mosque went into the school. And apparently we're told one of the children that you'll all be praying on mats by the time you're in year 9 or something, or by the time you're the age of 9, one of that. So she went, spoke to the parents, put it out. The whole media, the Swansea Council, she's had to answer to them. They caught saying she's lying all over social media. She's Islamophobe, so anybody that challenges it has had, off with their head sort of thing. But I think if there's strength in numbers, people are going to be able to talk about things. And Francesca and people like Francesca will feel a lot more empowered to do so, knowing they've got the backing of the people.
Yeah.
Whereas at the moment...
Tell people who Francesca is, because she's a Reform
councillor, in Swansea. She was Conservative. She's now Reform. She's standing for Reform in the Senedd Elections. She's number 1 candidate for Swansea, going up against Swansea's leader, Rob Stewart, as well, which is great. But she's fantastic. She's always been a great councillor. And she's got a genuine care for the people of Wales.
Yes.
She's got a vested interest in things like farming, because she used to work on the farms.
Sure.
She's not a career politician, ultimately. She's a person. And I think that's what we've been missing, in Welsh politics, especially people.
And there's no point in mourning that we've got career politicians in all the time, and then we're going to vote for Plaid Cymru, who are career politicians. And yet Reform have got now down-to-earth, boots-on-the-ground people that are going to be candidates. Don't mourn.
Yeah, exactly. You damned if you do and damned if you don't. Because if they bring in, now they say, no, they got no experience. Okay, well, should we get some career politicians? Oh, no, they're all career politicians. So you're never going to win. These people who do the critics, they're never going to be pleased, because they're not undecided. Their mind is made up totally, and they're never going to change it. So they are always going to be critical. So there's no need to pander to them.
No. Do you see yourself as non-partisan?
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say so. I'm not a member of Reform. I've never been a member of Reform. I've never been a member of Brexit.
Been...
Never, ever.
Oh,
no.
Okay.
We actually, in 2019, myself and Stan, pretty much run the South Wales campaign through them, from the offices sort of thing, with all the merch, the kit, the flyers and all that. But we were never members, because I don't want to be a member of the party. I did join Advance.
Yes.
And I think... UKIP was the first party I joined.
Sure.
And Advance now is the second party. So there's only 2 parties I've ever been a part of.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is because I don't... Commitment I got an issue with. So, I can't commit, because then you start to feel loyal, and it's like you start to forgive.
Yes.
It's like, oh, they've done that, but they've been, whereas if I take a step back, I can criticise easier.
Yeah, I won't be a member of any party either, because I want the ability to be able to approach them in a non-biased, non-partisan way. But I think people don't understand what being non-partisan is.
Yeah.
You can still vote for a party and be non-partisan. Non-partisan is not voting.
Yeah. No, exactly.
And I think this is the lie in Wales at the minute, that, I'm non-partisan, so I'm not voting. No, a non-partisan person can see which party is most aligned with change and vote for them.
Yeah, floating voters, I suppose.
Yeah.
It's hard to vote in the Welsh elections, because I did when it was the Brexit party was standing.
Yeah.
But then who else am I going to vote for? It's like, all right, my choice is Welsh Labour, Plaid Cymru or Liberal Democrats.
That's true.
I'm spoiling that ballot, I'm not voting for one of them.
No.
So, that's similar to that, but now there's an option. So I'm more than happy to say that that's what I'm going to be doing.
So you are definitely voting for them?
100%, yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
I did a video today, which is going to come out before this interview comes out, saying that I am voting Reform.
Yeah.
Now, I do love heritage. I love Timberley.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Timberley Sherwood is
PCP Wales.
Absolutely wonderful woman. But like you said, being tactical means that sometimes you've got to look further ahead.
Yeah.
At what...
without a doubt. PCP Wales do some amazing work. The work that they've done, for years, a long, long time. They've taken the Welsh Government to court over the mandatory sex education, which wasn't happening. Court order for what? For something that's not true.
Right.
So it was always true. And, they well, they weathered the storm.
Yeah.
Because they took a lot of flack. You know, they were confused parents, apparently.
Sure.
You know, so they took all that, got up to the point of the court case. You know, unfortunately, they did lose the court case.
On a technicality, wasn't it?
Yeah. You know, and ultimately, it was going to be a hard battle anyway, because once it's already been approved, the curriculum's already been written. It's already about to be rolled out.
Right.
It's hard for them to go, right, yeah, we'll scrap all that. We'll have to go back to the other one.
Yeah.
You know, but again, with Kim, again, she's very much with her heart on things. And I know David Curtin supported her a lot, you know, throughout her campaigns. And that's why her loyalty is with David Curtin. But unfortunately, it's a waste. It is a waste, because, you know, that one vote isn't going to go to reform. And if it doesn't go to reform, that Plaid Cymru are saying, stop reform, vote us.
Right.
Because that's all they want to do is stop reform.
Yeah.
You know, the biggest party with the most number of votes is going to be the most successful. So they got a battle, because they got a challenge between Labour and the Lib Dems and the Greens.
Yeah.
Whereas for the first time, we've got one horse, solid horse, and we can back. So anything splintering off that is a waste.
But do you think, though, we got to think about seats number 5 and 6, right? And if the people who literally cannot bring themselves to vote reform, because I've talked to a lot of people that just they can't bring themselves to do it, then they need to vote for somebody that is of the ilk of reform.
Yeah, it's a
like
waste.
heritage.
You know, I don't know why.
But they might get a 5 or 6 seat.
Yeah, but the thing is, the party's in the new system. You know, the new system isn't a totally new system. You know, we've used this
a bit of
forever.
A haunt. Yeah.
But, you know, so the parties are going to go for, right, we want to be able to get number 1 and number 2 off the bat. So even when they half the vote, they want to be the second choice as well.
Yeah.
So I think the chances of it trickling down to seats 5 and 6 and getting small...
You don't think it will work?
I don't think so.
No?
No, I don't think so. And even if it does work, what are they going to be doing in there as an individual? Well, they're going to be siding with reform.
Yeah.
So what's the point? And,
well, yeah, I suppose it's all... Right, yeah, I see where you're coming from.
And, you know, anybody who says they can't bring themselves to vote reform, I don't understand. Because what have they done that's worse than trans ideology in schools, telling kids they can convert to boys and girls? What have they done worse than Nation of Sanctuary, doors open, everyone welcome?
But, you know, I think people don't want to vote for reform is because Nigel seemingly backtracked on the mass immigration thing. That I think it's not because of what they believe in, you know, the racism and all this nonsense. I think it's because he backtracked.
Yeah.
And that's had a negative impact on people now.
Yeah.
Going, well, is he going to backtrack? Is, you know, reform going to backtrack on all the things that they've said they're going to do in Wales?
Well, ultimately, you know, Nigel flip-flops a lot, you know, he does, but we've got Dan in Wales, and Dan's the boss, like you said.
And he's like, he's focused, isn't he?
He's the one that's going to be making the decisions, and, you know, if that was the case, if you backtracked on mass immigration, well, not voting for them is a vote for mass immigration through Plaid Cymru. So, you know, ultimately, that is the job, even if you don't like them. Yeah. They've got to get in, and then we can take a step forward. Yeah. Otherwise, we're never taking that step. We're just going to be another 5 years of the same, backwards, actually, under Plaid.
It's true.
And we'd be praying for that step again.
Well, if you carry on with Plaid, we'll end up with Greens.
Yeah.
That's
everything
that Greens believe with, that's where we end up. Dave Thomas.
Yeah.
Director for Reform. What do you think of him?
I don't know too much about him, really. Yeah. Dave Thomas. All I've focused on is the Welsh elections. I haven't looked at anything further afield than that, really. It's only been the Welsh elections, who the candidates are in Wales. Yeah,
because apparently they had a different director.
Yeah.
And then she got ousted for Dave to come in.
Yeah.
And he's had tons of backlash, you know, DJ Thomas or whatever they called him and all this stuff. So I don't know with Dave if there's a genuine heart for Wales or if it's, do you know what I mean? And I think a lot of people are looking on this thinking, right, okay, we like Dan, but is Dave genuine?
Yeah.
Now, I do believe that he is genuine, but there is questions.
Yeah, there are questions, and I think, you know, ultimately it can't, it doesn't attract anything from me, you know.
No.
Like, I don't, there's not a lot that they could actually do, unless Dan Thomas stood up and said, right, we're going to support the Nation of Sanctuary.
Would that kill it for you?
I wouldn't be able to vote for reform then because I couldn't in good conscience vote for them. But
Sure.
at the moment, all the little things that are going on, all the, party political stuff, then, that just falls by the wayside at the moment.
Okay.
What is it, just over a week until the elections? Thursday next week, is it?
Is it Thursday? Yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah, it is actually.
Yeah.
They've changed the way that they're actually counting the vote on there as well. So they're not counting on the day, they're counting the day after. Why do you think they're doing that?
Oh, they need to dodgy the vote, don't they?
Well, there's no other option. Why would they want to do that?
We've seen it. We've seen them doing stuff. People say make sure you take your own pen. Don't use their pencils for a reason because there are people that rub it out.
So you would recommend take your own 100%, pen.
Yeah.
Don't take a pencil. Take a pen with you.
Yeah, take a pen. Make sure you put your X in the box that you want yourself, and you hand it in.
Is it a specific colour it has to be,
black.
or is it's got to be black?
Yeah.
Right. So you recommend take your own pen. Make sure it's a black pen.
Yeah.
And then make your mark.
Yeah, without a doubt. Because, we saw what happened with Trump on the election 2020. Sure. Now, people can say it's conspiracy. There's a brilliant documentary, I think it's called 10,000 Mules.
Yeah.
Undeniable.
Yeah, it is undeniable.
Totally undeniable that election was stolen.
It's all evidence.
And you can call people conspiracy theorists for that, but that's because they can't be bothered to go and look.
Yeah.
It's all there. And to think that couldn't happen here, I think, to be honest with you, in Wales, it's more likely to happen.
I think it's happened every election for the last 27 years.
I do.
Hence why we've got Labour for 27 years. Now, we're in Neath right now, and Neath have had the same councillor, Labour councillor, for I don't know how long, right? And it's time for change. We wonder why our towns look shockingly terrible.
That's it. All you need to do is look around to see what the effect of Labour and Plaid have had on Wales. Towns, and go any town and city.
Yeah.
We went when we was in Swansea. Beautiful city.
Oh, that's breaks my heart. Yeah.
You can't do anything, can't go anywhere. It's just not a place to go anymore, and that's the effect that they have.
And even in 2-3 years, Swansea seems to have taken a dramatic downturn really suddenly, isn't it? Which is bonkers.
Yeah, well, I think it's 12 to 14 years it's been a city of sanctuary.
Right.
So Swansea's a perfect example. If you want to know what Wales as a nation of sanctuary will look like, have a look at Swansea.
Yes, so you only have to walk up the street and you've got all the cafes are just full of immigrants outside.
Yeah, and especially at school time. Yeah. We've seen it, we've gone there, we've specifically to look, to watch, and you see the school times, because city centre, lots of buses come into town for them to get connecting buses out. And you see them sitting there waiting, they're all looking at the schoolgirls, disgusting. But obviously you can't say it. And, there's a lady, I won't name her, but she's got her own TikTok account, and she talks about how unsafe it is for her walking around Swansea. She gets, people shouting at her, wolf whistling at her, trying to touch her and things like that. And then you look at the security guards. We know a lot of the security guards in Swansea. They tell us it's every day. Every day something's happening, I guess. Where someone's trying to take a kid, touch someone. It's every single day. Why
do you think the lefties are so ignorant to this? Are they not seeing it, or is it willful ignorance?
It's got to be they're cultural Marxists. The ones that you see out to stand up to racism, you see they got their solid core.
Yeah.
They are genuine communist Marxists. They want to destroy Britain by any means necessary, and all of our history, everything that we know and love, they want it gone. And to do that, if it means importing all the people to do it for them, they will.
Right.
They're more than happy. But all the other people that blindly support them, Black Lives Matter, great name. Stand Up to Racism, great name. Who's going to say, no, they don't. Black lives don't matter. Or no, stand up for racism.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to do it. So they market it really well, and they capture a lot of people just through their branding because they think it's the virtuous thing to do. Oh, we got to be part of these. But then at the core of it, it's really what they want is very clear.
Yeah. How will reform scrap nation of sanctuary? Because I've seen this lots, is that we don't have those powers. It's not a devolved power. So how will they scrap it?
Well, it's not as devolved as it is for them to be able to put it in place. Nation of sanctuary, if it's not devolved, well, how is it a nation of sanctuary then?
That's the best way of it, but
yeah, because ultimately they can say it's not devolved and it isn't, but we know that Plaid Cymru want more powers, is what they say. They want law, they want immigration is going to be a big one, and taxation. They want all this stuff, and that's just the lead to independence. But if you've got a big banner saying, come to Wales, we'll give you houses, nation of sanctuary, come over here, it's advertising it from all to come.
It's true.
Whereas if Nigel or Reform's policy is to scrap the nation of sanctuaries, and Dan says that's not happening in Wales anymore.
No.
Well, that's a big thing because that's the houses, you see the houses are being built. Swansea City Centre at the moment, you can tell elections are coming up because Rob Stewart is standing council leader, he's standing for the Senedd as well.
Sure, right.
So obviously the budget is coming up now, isn't it? He's like, we're putting this, but every other post he's putting up is about old buildings being turned into flats. He's like, another investment, and all I'm thinking is, well, yeah, but it's going to be through housing association.
Yeah.
Half of that has to go to my immigrants.
That's what's happening here.
Yeah. So he's marketing it as, look at this, look at all this investment. But all it is, and remember, these can vote in Wales.
Sure.
So they're given the vote.
Yeah.
So they're going to vote for the people who's giving them the house,
Well, and before we've come out, they've done the same policy as what Advance and Heritage have put, the saying that Muslims will not be able to buy old churches.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
Oh, that should never have been allowed in the first place, because that isn't coincidence.
No.
That's domination. It's a sign of domination. That's why they do it. It is absolutely why they do it. And they're assisted to do it as well. Like the Sketty Mosque in Swansea, I don't know if you're aware, Mark Drakeford went there to open it and pledged the £350,000 Welsh government fund money to there, and they're doing that because they were matching the Saudi Arabia donation of 350. So £700,000 went into that Sketty Mosque.
What?
Yeah. And we timed it 6 minutes from the big mosque in city centre and another 6 minutes onto the next mosque. So, and there's not that many Muslims in Swansea that you need 3 mosques within 12 minutes of each other.
So it's just a sign of we are here and we're going to dominate the culture.
Yeah. And there's lots of videos online of them saying what they're doing, saying why they're doing it, mocking videos. I don't know if you've seen, there's one where he keeps on going and he's like, we're going to go into this church.
Yeah.
And the other one said, well, why are you going into a church? He's like, it's not a church anymore, is it? It's a mosque. And then they all go in, look, this is where all our children are learning. They boast, they slam it in your face to make sure you know why they're doing it. But obviously, there's loads of examples. You've got the main one then on St Helens Road, which is the Islamic part of Swansea. Mm-hmm. They applied for funding through Swansea Council and rejected, and they had to close down. Yeah. All for it to be taken over by the Islamic community to get loads of funding from Swansea Council and the Welsh Government. So they chose not to invest in Christianity, and they chose to invest in Islam.
We can't get funding.
No. You want...
It's just simple. We can't get funding. Every funding that we've applied for, we've been declined. And I'm a leader in a church. And it's just been declined time after time. They won't help us.
And when you hear of other communities then getting, over £250,000...
Oh my gosh, what I could do with £250,000
just,
for the community.
I think that when I think of Nation Cymru, if I had 80 grand, slipping out, I won't be using my 15-year cameras.
But don't you think that's true though? If they're going to give 80 grand to a leftist organisation, or they're going to give 350 to a Muslim population, then they should, by fairness and equality,
absolutely,
give it the same to the right-leaning.
Yeah, absolutely. That's how it should work. I would ultimately... You can't open a church in Saudi, right? And I agree with that. I think that you shouldn't be allowed to open a church in Saudi. That's their culture, and we should not intrude.
Sure.
But it should be the same over here. I would close all the mosques.
Yeah.
Ultimately, you speak to any Muslim, and they'll tell you they don't need a mosque. They'll say the mosque is just a building we go to, to gather in. Sure. We can pray at home.
Yeah.
Remember, free council tax if you've got a prayer room in your house as well. So, there's lots of things like that. So if a part of your house is a prayer room, one of the bedroom, for example, then you're exempt from council tax because it's a place of worship.
Even if I was a Christian and I had a prayer room?
Oh, no, because you know it's got to be Muslim. Yeah.
That's crazy.
But it is. But this is it, and this is why people are getting so fed up. And I think this is why it's got to a point now where people are ready to vote, because the Welsh have been so apathetic when it comes to voting.
Yeah, they have.
It's been really 46% turnout in the last Senedd elections. After COVID, after Mark Drakeford had given everybody the worst lockdown, closed all the gyms, half-price McDonald's, once they'd done all that, they still voted him in. Yeah, and they still voted him in.
You're joking. Yeah.
So to see Wales flip in 5 years as it has is unprecedented. It is a strike while the iron's hot kind of moment.
Do you think we're the lowest we've ever been, aren't we?
Oh, yeah.
It's never been as bad as this. It's incredibly difficult across the board right now.
Yeah.
But people have a choice.
They do, and that's it. You want more of the same. Nobody can say they're happy with how things are.
No.
I don't know anybody that can. And even Labour are saying things like, we know where we are now and we know what we got to get right. Well, you've had 27 years. You know, there's no excuse anymore. Plaid Cymru, and people think that Plaid Cymru, I just don't get the Labour, I'm not voting Labour, I'm going to vote Plaid this time.
They're the same.
Because if you're not happy with what Labour have done, you're voting for them. It's the same. Why would you do that?
Well, if you look at their manifestos, they're almost identical. Even the way they've set it out is almost identical. So that should tell you everything.
Exactly.
And I won't be surprised if they use the same team to actually print and do those manifestos.
I wouldn't be surprised, exactly. Someone in the Senedd building's helping them both. Yeah, because I think it's just a charade. I think democracy it is a charade.
Yeah.
It is. Labour like, right, okay, we've got to pass a baton now, so we're going to give Plaid a go. Plaid are going to have a little go for a little while, and they're going to try and win the race to the bottom as well.
Yeah.
You know, because it's not, you know, they're the same and worse, you know, I would say Plaid Cymru are, because they want the things like independence. You know, he says, oh, we're not pushing for that. Well, it's in your manifesto.
It is.
So that's a promise, you know, in your manifesto. You are pushing for it. You can tell me you're not, you are.
He is.
Yeah, without a doubt. And that's not going to be good for Wales.
No.
You know, and to say that isn't anti-Welsh or not believing in Wales.
Yeah.
You know, it's being realistic.
But part of me thinks that if Plaid got in, they're backtracking a lot of their policies anyway.
They'd either backtrack or they'd ignore a lot of the stuff. And, you know, look at Starmer in Westminster now. The stuff that he's brought in would never voted on. But then saying that, same as Labour here.
Yeah, it's true.
It's general thing.
But they're worse than the UK Labour.
Oh,
the English Labour. Welsh Labour is so much more extreme.
Yeah, they are.
You know, they actually do what they say they're going to do.
I think Wales has always been like the testing point for all the madness.
Yeah.
You know, Keir Starmer said before you got into power, look at Mark Drakeford's Wales, that's the blueprint. You know, that's what we want. That sort of, you know, and everybody in Wales is like, really?
Like what?
Yeah, you don't want this, trust me. But Plaid, you know, I think they're going to do the same as what Keir Starmer did. There's going to be a lot of things that has no mention in the manifesto that's going to come in.
Yes,
you know, you've seen the things like pay per mile. You know, that's, you know, Green Party policy. Yeah, we was talking about that 2019.
Yeah.
And obviously conspiracy theorists, that's never going to happen, you know. And now it's literally introduced in policies throughout. So, you know, these things that are being discussed 5-6 years ago will be coming into fruition now.
Mind you, I feel stupid because I didn't know much about politics before I started this. I just knew that Wales needed something. It's been a discovery, a wonderful discovery. But I didn't think that Mark Drakeford would do the 20 mile an hour limit. I don't know if it's naivety, but it, you know, it did happen, and it is you. And these things are going to become more extreme if you vote in Plaid or Labour.
I think, so the Green Party policies, that is what every other party is aiming for. Greens have gone, they've just gone all out. They've gone, this is it, we're going for it. And Labour and Plaid, they're gone like, oh, we can't say all that yet.
Yeah.
But they want to get to that.
Yeah, they do.
You know, that's where they're aiming. The climate, you know, 20 mile per hour, they brought that up because it was bad for the planet. And said, well, okay, so you're going to keep cars on the road for longer, you know, more fumes, engines straining more. That's good. So then Lee Waters had to change it to, it's not for that, it's for safety.
Yeah,
you know,
it's
it's part of the war on motorists.
Yes,
you know, they want to get people off the roads. You've tried to drive into Cardiff now, you're definitely coming home with a ticket somewhere, you know, bus lanes, you know. But we had one recently, 20 mile per hour, if you're driving anywhere and you have to drive 20 mile per hour, there's cameras everywhere, you just think, I can't be bothered to drive.
No.
So it's that, you know, it's trying to make driving unattractive for people.
Because they want the control of where people go.
Yeah.
Now, I've seen a lot about the digital ID stuff, because you went to the...
Yeah, I didn't actually go in the end, it was unfortunate, but yeah, it was...
But it was good turnout.
Yeah, really good.
People. What is, a lot of people don't know about this digital ID, what is it?
So, what is it, what they're saying, or what it's going to be used for?
No, what is it? Yeah.
So, if you look at China is exactly what they are going for with the social credit score.
Sure.
So, it's based on behaviours as well. So, and you know, or you've travelled this amount of distance, you can't have any more travel. Or you've gone on one holiday in the last 3 years, no more holidays, you bought this much meat, you're talking against the government, your credit score's going down.
Right.
So, again, it's all control. They say it's to try and stop the boats. You know, I don't know how... You know, the guy in France is getting on a boat is going to go, oh no, Dan's got a digital ID, I'm not going to go.
I'm not going.
Yeah. So, you know, they say that that's what it's for, but it is all control. That's all they want is more control. They had to taste it through COVID.
Yeah.
And there was, you know, they nearly got the vaccine passports in.
Sure.
But obviously there was a big pushback and that didn't happen. There's a turnover on the digital ID now. However, you know, look at censorship on social media. 16-year-olds are not going to be allowed to go on it. That's going to be used. The digital ID is what's going to be used because 16-year-olds haven't got ID. So how are they going to be able to prove their age or how they're going to be able to get onto certain things.
But
when
they
haven't
can't
got
go on
ID.
Facebook because they're 16 years old, but they can vote.
Yeah. Insane. Yeah, it's insane. Absolutely insane.
I don't get it.
But yeah, you know, the digital ID is the end point, you know, because once they've got everything digital, they can just seize your assets. You know, you saw people in China that weren't listening to the lockdown, they were locked up their bank accounts, locked up their houses, and left to be homeless and rot. You know, and that is extreme. You know, Swansea and Wales,
But it can happen.
It can happen, absolutely. The Swansea's twinned with Wuhan.
Yeah.
You know, they share their business stuff, so they've got links.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Just ask Martin Shipton.
Yes, absolutely. I wish I was there when his door got kicked off. He must have been so surprised.
So, do Reform support digital ID, or do they want to scrap it?
They want to scrap it from what I've seen.
Right.
When it was being discussed in Westminster, they were against it. The Conservatives were against it, and actually the Lib Dems were against it.
Sure.
You know, Lib Dems, Liberals, they would naturally be against that sort of
Yes.
control.
Yeah.
You know, in Wales, different story. They'll be all for it. Obviously, it's Liberal by all, and Democrat by all name only. But Reform were against it. You know, Reform were absolutely about more freedom, less control.
Right.
You know, there's a reason why the Welsh elections this year, you've got more Senedd members being put in, apparently a new voting system. You know, it's been changed so much because they know what's coming. They know that Reform are on the wave, and they've got to try and stop it. So that's what they're trying to do.
Do you think we're on like the point of a civil war? Because it feels so, I don't know.
I think it could get to that. I think it could. And because the politicians aren't listening. You know, the politicians aren't listening, and there needs to be that pressure valve release where there's going to be politicians in power that are actually going to represent the people.
Yeah.
And if they keep on ignoring the people, and, you know, they're not ignoring them on small things.
No.
They're ignoring them on, you know, mass rape of children from Pakistani Muslim grooming gangs.
Yeah.
They've ignored that and covered that up for however many decades.
Yeah.
You know, they're ignoring the trans ideology, things that are happening in schools. They're ignoring the rapes and things like that are happening from the men coming over from hotels on women and children. And there's only so much people will take. You know, and I don't want it to get to that.
No.
I really don't. But there's only so much people can take. And I think we're nearly at that point.
I think so. So, Dan Thomas, you think is a good one?
Yeah.
Because we're going to wrap up this interview, but we want to make a point of saying Dan Thomas is not Nigel Farage, and Nigel Farage is not Dan Thomas.
Absolutely right.
Dan Thomas is leading Wales Reform, and he's a strong character, he's a strong leader.
Yeah.
And we think he's going to do what he says he's going to do.
Yeah.
And after, you know, we are going to be around long after the elections.
Exactly, yeah.
And we're going to make sure that they do what they're going to do. But one thing that we are going to make sure is that we're going to unite the right and make sure that the right-leaning people are becoming an opposition, a movement of people that hold the Senedd to account.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we've been missing, isn't it? It's been so splintered on the right. You know, people say egos, and egos maybe, but I think egos comes from passion.
Yeah.
I think the people on our side are definitely more passionate about the concerns for the country.
Yeah,
On that side, it's just their hobby. You know, they seem to be able to do it every day. If they want to go out and campaign, they can do it every single day. They got nothing else to live for.
No.
Whereas the people on our side, we are more passionate about it and we care.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's going to naturally get to the point where we're all going to get together and think, right.
We will.
Yeah.
We will. Watch this space.
Yes.
But thanks, Dan.
No, thank you for having me.
All right.
Thank you.
Vote Reform.